Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. Today I'm going to talk about how to use Epsom salt in your garden, on your cucumber plants, on your tomato plants, and I will show you examples of how to water them in. Now, Epsom salt used to be loved. 5 years ago, YouTubers were saying it's the best thing ever. Now YouTubers are saying don't use it. People are saying it's a fertilizer. Then people are saying no, it's not a fertilizer. So before you use anything in your garden, you have to understand what it is. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. It'll say right there. This is just from your local pharmacy, pharmacy section at your grocery store. It provides magnesium and sulfur to your garden plants. I use a lot of compost. I use a lot of mulch. I feed my plants regularly. They probably don't need any magnesium and they don't need any sulfur. The problem with Epsom salt is people were using it every week, every 2 weeks, once a month. They were overdosing their plants with magnesium and sulfur. That will cause a problem. I'm going to show you how to use it, simply and correctly. So there are 6 macronutrients. The first ones are the primary ones, the ones you always hear about: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Your plants need that in higher amounts. They need nitrogen the most, and we're always adding nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium to our gardens because those are the main macronutrients, the primary ones. The secondary ones, which all plants need but not nearly as much as the ones I just mentioned, are magnesium, sulfur, and calcium. If you oversupply magnesium and sulfur to your soil, it can lock out the plant's ability to transfer other nutrients into their system. So overdoing it is going to cause a problem. You only need to use this, in my opinion, number one, if you're not supplying your garden with ample compost, manures, etc. Maybe you're just getting started and you're building up your soil over time. And you only really need to use it at planting, just a little bit. I'll show you how to use it. And then maybe mid-growth for like cucumbers, melons, zucchini, squash. Mid-season, those plants are heavy feeders. They're really sucking the nutrients out of the soil. And I do recommend using it more in containers where the root systems of your tomato plants, your cucumber plants, pull out all the nutrients. So I would really target this more for container growing. To use it, 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt into a gallon of water. This is 2 gallons of water. I put in 2 tablespoons. This is a water-soluble fertilizer. Fertilizer in the sense that it's applying 2 secondary nutrients to your garden. It is not a fertilizer in the sense that you can just use this and it's going to give your plants everything they need. It is only for magnesium and sulfur. So this has been mixed up. It dissolves really quickly. If I just put these in, or maybe just, drop seeds, this is all I would do. Around the base, soak it in, I'm done. That's all you need if you want to add magnesium and sulfur to your garden. When the plants are bigger, maybe mid-season they're producing, I would do the same thing and just water it in, maybe twice as long, get it to the root system, and then you're done with it. Overusing it is what the issue is. Let's take a look at the tomato plants. I also want to mention that magnesium sulfate is not a cure-all. Don't go running to it when your plants are yellowing. If your plants are yellowing, the first thing you want to give them is more water-soluble nitrogen. When you look at this cucumber plant, there's some dust on here. The leaves are nice and green. Bottom leaves, they're just all beat up, really from the sun and from a cold spell we were having. So I don't need to come out here and say, oh look, it's starting to yellow on the edges. I need magnesium sulfate. That's how you damage your plants. You misdiagnose them. Here's a better example of leaves that have yellow blotching and spotting. They're just going to die out. It's fine. The top growth is nice and green. So you have to be able to assess your plants in a healthy way. Here's another example. Sometimes people see that pattern and they panic and then they start throwing magnesium sulfate at it. If your plants look like they're struggling, always give them a water-soluble form of nitrogen first, like fish emulsion or AgroThrive or something like that. That usually takes care of the problem. Use the Epsom salt in a strategic way just to give them enough magnesium and sulfur for them to manage for the year. These guys are nice and green, nice and healthy. They have not been given any Epsom salt this year, And realistically, I don't use it every year. Again, because now I've got so much compost going into my garden, they're getting what they need. Let's pretend this is mid-season. This plant's like 5 feet tall. This is how I would use it. I would just soak around the whole base, putting it in so that it gets to all the roots that have moved away from the plant. And that's it. No more magnesium sulfate, no more Epsom salt for my plants after possibly the mid-season feeding. You just don't need that much. So yes, it's a fertilizer. No, it's not a primary macronutrient supplying nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium to your plants. It only supplies magnesium and sulfur. I think it's more important in your container plants at mid-season when the plants have been taking all the nutrients out of the soil. If you're using a chemical type water-soluble fertilizer like Miracle Grow or Plant Expert or Vigoro, I think is another one, they will typically have magnesium and sulfur already in there. So you want to check the granular fertilizers you're using, you want to check the water-soluble fertilizers you're using and make sure they're not already getting, low amounts of magnesium and sulfur. This is not a must, you don't have to do it, but I just wanted to show you the right way to do it. And this is how I use it on tomatoes and cucumbers. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com, and please subscribe. I'll show you how I take care of these tomatoes and cucumbers over the year. Thanks for watching.